It was perfect. But no, you just had to blow it up. You and your pride and your ego. You just had to be the man.
Who was Walter White's greatest enemy? We all know Walter White, the chemistry teacher turned kingpin who built an empire, outsmarted the Drug Enforcement Agency, and brought Gus to his knees. But what if I told you his greatest enemy, it wasn't Gus, it wasn't the cartel, the Drug Enforcement Agency, or even cancer itself? Rather, his biggest enemy and mistake was himself. Here's why. I'm Dr. Patrick Kingsep, clinical psychologist. Now, Breaking Bad is a masterpiece of character development. Walt is a genius capable of incredible feats of strategy and manipulation, but he's also deeply flawed.
I made a mistake. It's my own fault.
His ego, his pride, his desperate need for control. These are the forces that ultimately destroy him. Throughout Breaking Bad, Walt sabotages himself time and time again. He makes impulsive decisions, pushes away allies, and takes unnecessary risks, all driven by his own internal demons. But Breaking Bad isn't just a crime drama. It's a psychological study of a man at war with himself. So let's explore the subtle ways Walt's own choices paved the path to his destruction. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn something about our own destructive tendencies along the way. Now, Walt meticulously covers his tracks, right? So leaving Gale's inscribed leaves of grass on his bathroom shelf where Hank finds it seems careless, too careless. This seemingly minor slip-up reveals a deeper struggle within Walt. By this point, Walt's double life is taking a toll. Juggling family man and kingpin creates cognitive dissonance, which is like a clash between conflicting identities. So leaving the book isn't forgetfulness. It's a subconscious cry for exposure. Years of lies have suffocated him. He's exhausted. He craves release, even if it means risking everything. Self-sabotage creeps in when we tire of masks and secrets. Leaving the book was Walt's way to seek relief, to end the charade. He wasn't just slipping up, he was inviting discovery, desperate to escape the burden of his lies. This desire for exposure, however subconscious, ultimately sets in motion a chain of events that will lead to his downfall. Walt's subconscious slip-up reminds us that we must acknowledge the power of our own hidden emotions and desires, or risk them manifesting in ways that ultimately sabotage our own success. Now, this need for control, for dominance, is further highlighted in Walt's relationship with Mike Ehrmantraut.
You know, Walter, sometimes it doesn't hurt to have someone watching your back.
Mike saw through Walt's facade. He refused to be controlled. When Mike withholds names, it challenges Walt's fragile ego. Obsessed with power, Walt feels threatened by Mike's defiance. Shooting him isn't necessary. It's an impulsive act of dominance, a desperate attempt to assert control over someone who refuses to submit. Regret hits instantly.
I'm sorry, Mike. This whole thing could have been avoided.
Shut the fuck up.
He's forced to confront his impulsiveness.
Let me die in peace.
It's not empathy he feels, but the sting of losing a valuable ally due to his own ego. Each violent act meant to assert control only deepens the chaos, pushing Walt closer to destruction. Mike's death serves as a stark reminder that uncontrolled impulses driven by insecurity and the need for dominance can lead to irreversible consequences and also the loss of valuable allies and friends. Walt's self-destructive tendencies are not limited to his interactions with criminals. Even with family, his need for validation overrides his sense of self-preservation. Hank's about to close the Heisenberg case, pinning it on Gail. Walt could let it go, protect his family, his secret, but he can't resist. He sows doubt, reigniting Hank's investigation. This isn't strategy, it's a need for validation, a desire to be seen as the mastermind he believes himself to be. Walt's past haunts him. He felt overshadowed at Grey Matter, unappreciated. He needs to prove himself, especially to Hank. He's torn between staying hidden and being recognized. This is cognitive dissonance at its peak. And it's this internal conflict that leads him to make one of his most self-sabotaging decisions. Pushing Hank is a reckless gamble. Walt risks everything for a fleeting moment of recognition. He's blinded by his craving for validation, endangering himself and his family. The irony, in his quest to be seen as a genius, he destroys his own empire. Walt's reckless pursuit of validation highlights how a fragile ego can cloud our judgment, leading us to take unnecessary risks that jeopardize our own well-being and those of our important others. Walt's moral compass continues to erode as he descends deeper into the criminal underworld. Todd kills a child. Jesse is horrified. He urges Walt to cut ties. Instead, Walt keeps Todd close. This is a turning point in Walt's moral decline. Todd's brutality no longer matters. It's almost like an asset. Todd's ruthlessness allows Walt to justify his own darkness. Keeping Todd normalizes his descent into violence. It's not about practical necessity. It's about reinforcing his choices, about surrounding himself with people who reflect his own just increasingly warped worldview. This is classic self-sabotage. By embracing someone as reckless as Todd, Walt invites chaos. He justifies his actions by aligning with someone who asks no questions. He pushes moral boundaries, inviting destruction. Walt's decision to embrace Todd's ruthlessness underscores the importance of choosing our influences wisely, as toxic relationships can normalize destructive behaviors and lead us down a dangerous path. Walt's self-destructive behavior, it extends beyond the drug trade and into his personal life. Skylar's affair leaves Walt feeling, well, not like a man, emasculated.
Next time, you'll open the door. There you go. Damn it. What? No, I just hear the talk.
He makes an inappropriate advance on Carmen, the assistant principal. This isn't attraction. It's a desperate need to assert dominance. He needs to prove he still has power, that he's still in control, that he's still attractive. This impulsive act reflects a deeper pattern, his fragile ego, battered by betrayal. It drives him. He jeopardizes his reputation, his link to his former life. Instead of regaining power, he highlights the lack of control, further fueling his self-destructive spiral. Walt's inappropriate advance on Carmen demonstrates how desperate attempts to regain power, fueled by insecurity and a bruised ego, can often backfire and cause further damage. The pressure of maintaining his double life continues to mount, and Walt's subconscious begins to betray him. Walt reveals his second phone to Skylar. For someone so guarded, this is more than a mistake. It's his subconscious buckling under the pressure.
Where's your phone? Your cell phone, did you bring it?
Which one?
Walt's life is constant compartmentalization. The mental strain is immense. The truth slips out because the burden of lies is unbearable. His confession isn't a choice. It's an exhausted mind seeking relief. It's a cry for help that goes unheard. This unguarded moment reveals the heavy toll that secrets and lies take on our mental well-being, reminding us to acknowledge our limits and seek healthy ways to cope with stress before it leads to self-sabotage. Now, Walt's relationship with Jesse Pinkman is perhaps the most complex and damaging example of his self-sabotaging tendencies. Walt's relationship with Jesse is complex. He's a mentor, a manipulator, and also a father figure. He sees Jesse as a surrogate son, someone to mold and control. Jesse becomes a pawn, a project, a reflection of Walt's own need to dominate and control. The deeper Jesse goes, the more reliant he becomes on Walt. But this control, it backfires. Jesse rebels, leading to betrayal and conflict. Walt's need to dominate stems from his own sense of inadequacy. He seeks to control Jesse as a way of masking his own deep-seated insecurities. And this codependent dynamic is self-sabotage at its core. Walt's obsession with control turns an ally into a threat. And the toxic dynamic between Walt and Jesse highlights the dangers of manipulation and control in relationships, as these patterns often breed resentment and ultimately lead to conflict and isolation. Walt's impulsiveness and need for control ultimately lead to him making decisions that jeopardize his entire operation. Walt kills the dealers who murdered Thomas. This appears to be about protecting Jesse, but it's really about dominance. He defies Gus, jeopardizing their relationship. This isn't calculated, it's impulsive.
I'm the man who killed Gus Fring.
Bullshit. Cartel got Frank.
You sure?
Driven by a need to assert his authority and prove he's not someone to be played with. He plays with you.
What happened?
I won.
Walt can't tolerate being seen as weak. He prioritizes power over stability. This reflects his desperate need to prove himself, overriding logic. He accelerates his downfall by choosing force over strategy. Walt's impulsive act of violence underscores the importance of choosing strategy over force, over power, over strength. At the root of Walt's self-destructive behavior lies a deep-seated insecurity stemming from his past. Selling his stake in gray matter for $5,000 is Walt's defining regret. It fuels his every choice. His drug empire isn't just about providing, it's about proving his worth, about erasing the perceived failure of his past. Gray matter is the source of his obsession. He wants to rewrite history, to reclaim success, but this pursuit pushes him to dangerous extremes. He sacrifices everything, his family, his morality, his humanity, all in the name of validating himself. Walt's need for validation drives his self-sabotage. In trying to fill the void, he destroys everything that matters. Unresolved wounds can turn the pursuit of redemption into a path of destruction. Walt's obsession with gray matter serves as a powerful reminder that unresolved trauma and deep-seated insecurities can fuel self-destructive behaviors, preventing us from achieving true fulfillment. The greatest dangers often lie within. Walter White's story is a stark reminder that unresolved trauma, insecurity, and the relentless pursuit of validation can drive us to self-sabotage. Heisenberg's empire wasn't toppled by the DEA or rival cartels. It was eroded from within by the very man who built it. It was by Walter White's internal rot. In the end, Walt's fall shows us that the most difficult battles are the ones we fight against ourselves.